Can you see my slide?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So this is Eisak Sakane from National Institute of Informatics in Japan. So I'd like to talk about Gakunin update, actually Academic Identity Access Management Federation in Japan. I'd like to talk about three projects, and Gakunin, it means Academic Identity Access Management Federation, and UPKI, that is a certificate issuance service for academia in Japan, and also we, Eduroam JP, so we praise a national roaming operator in Japan. So I'll talk about these three topics. And first, Gakunin. So currently, Gakunin statistics. So we have identity providers. 300 identity providers. Actually, we have over 300 university and research institute joins Gakunin. And also we have 200 service providers. I'm gonna talk about Gakunin challenges and on background. So we need for a new trust framework in Japan. So Gakunin has provided a stable trust framework to academia in Japan, so this trust Gakunin works well for common academic services used by all constituent members of a university or institution, and such as electric journal services. But there are many research communities in Japan. However, unfortunately, these research communities don't always rely on identity providers in Gakunin, and because all Gakunin identity providers do not satisfy the requirements of the communities. So as a result, trust framework has been formed in each research community so far. But many of users in the research communities are also constitute members of identity providers that already join Gakunin. So it is natural for users to demand to use home organization account for services in the research communities. So in other words, so users should not want to manage several accounts. So in order to solve the situation, we launched a new working group in Gakunin in fiscal year 2021. So our goal of Gakunin is to build a new trust framework focused on identification and authentication, and we'll deploy it to in Japan. So this new trust framework includes support for. Sorry, this trust framework should be useful for research community in Japan, and will support collaboration with the industrial sector, and also will promote international collaboration, and can ensure worldwide interoperability. This slide shows key components in the new Gakunin Trust Framework. So first, Gakunin Identity Assurance Level and Authentication Assurance Level. So this Gakunin IAL and AAL documents can stipulate each assurance level for academia in Japan. And next, authenticator registry. This registry evaluates authenticators based on Gakunin AAL, and share the results of the result of evaluation. Next, authentication proxy service called Auditors. And this authentication proxy service support and assurance level matching and identity binding and credential bridging and also some attribute coordination. So in my presentation, proxy services is and these meaning, so assurance level matching, binding, credential bridging. And next, we provided IDP hosting services, and this and services and try to address issue of IDP building and operation in some universities that have some issues and building IDP, and also this services try to increase the number of identity provider in Gakunin. And finally, and advanced group management. This approach will support for high-end complex authorization control. Now, so I'll talk about each project some in detail. And the first, Gakunin Identity Assurance Level 2, Authenticate Assurance Level 2. So, as mentioned in the previous meeting, so we have done create the document of these assurance level. So proposal operation policy of IL2, AAL2 in the next generation of Gakunin, and this document supports written in Japanese and also English. And also we provide a credential policy and credential practical statement sample. These documents are available from this and the URL you can show, you can see. So now in progress, so we are conducting a medium scale experiment in the implementation of new trust framework based on these assurance level document and evaluating the results. And in this medium scale experiment, so several stakeholders in Japan already joined, and the goal of experiment is to provide technical specification and specify the new problem or issues addressing the next step. The next authenticator registry, and the purpose of this authenticator registry is to evaluate authenticators based on a Gakunin AAL2 document and publish the results, and promote multi-factor authentication support for identity providers of university and research institutions. And in this fiscal year, we already started the production operation, so you can see our result in this URL. But unfortunately, currently we provide the result in written in only Japanese, but we plan to translate our result to English in English, and currently, so authenticator registry supports the following authenticator. First, FIDO approved authenticators, and next Microsoft Authenticator and Google Authenticator, and UPKI, actually PKIX client certificate. And the detail of the Gakunin AL2 authenticator registry will be presented in the next APAN meeting. Will held in Japan. Next, authentication proxy service authors. And this authentication proxy service supports the new Gakunin Trust Framework, and this proxy services can bridge between IDP and SP service for SP in Gakunin, and also enabling assurance level management and ID binding of users and some attribute assurance. And in this fiscal year, we try to link an external IDP, for example, for example, identity provider for government services. So for handling ID of the researchers of industrial sector. And also in research, and we are considering home IDP binding, and due to change of organization, for example, from University A to B institution. And also in this fiscal year, we will support for new Gakunin assurance level policy completely. Next, IDP hosting services. And in IDP hosting, it's based on the following basic idea. So future vision of Gakunin. So we think that all universities and research institutes nationwide participate in Gakunin. So actually, fundamental identity infrastructure for researcher and students. So but currently, unfortunately, the number of identity providers in Gakunin it does not cover all university and research institutes in Japan. So actually, the percentage of participants is about 30%. So we need to increase the number of identity providers in Gakunin. So to do so, we offer this identity provider hosting services. And research research and development for this is research and development for supporting the diversification of operation modes and improving operational efficiency. And in the previous fiscal year, we have demonstrated first experiment and started this. Sorry, this is no. This is wrong. Previous March. And in this fiscal year, so we conducted a second experiment for these services. Started. So from this second experiment, the participant to this experiment can join the experiment for 2 years, not 1 year. So and the previous first experiment, we we should end the experiment the end of fiscal year, but we could extended the experiment period from 1 year to second year. And to do so, participants or unjoined some university which is unjoined学年and can and join easily for and can join easily, I think. And this slide shows and the timeline of our project and current fiscal year and current pilot and many project is now current pilot operation phase. Yes, and next, UPK certificate issuance services. And current participant of this service is about 400 organizations. And this and the service is supported the number of domains, 520 domains. And also, we provide following that types of certificate. First, organization validation server certificate, and client, but which is actually private, or SMIME certificate, that which is of course an public certificate. And also we provide EV extended validation server certificate, provided by a separate CA from certificate authorities that issue the above. And all certificates above are currently public, but except for client certificate, and root CA is operated by the second trust system, and its CA certificate are included in certificate stores for common platforms, and CA browser forum baseline requirement is supported. And current topics, we are considering support for ACME protocol. Support for ACME protocol is very expected, required from our customers in UPK services. So in current plan, the support for ACME protocol will be started in the middle of next fiscal year. Finally, I'd like to talk about Eduroam JP. The current participant of Eduroam JP is 433 organizations, and we provide IDP service called Eduroam JP Federated ID Services. This service is actually Eduroam account issuing system with学年 IDP, some assertion. And also this IDP services is plays as a simple IDP hosting services without no federation IDP. On the topic of Eduroam JP, so we are currently developing the support for open roaming pass point. So open roaming to support open roaming pass point, so we need to RADSEC proxy. So we have built so RADSEC proxy, and we started a pilot operation of the open roaming hub gateway built by RadSec proxy and some softwares. So in summary, so we have introduced the topics of the following project and Gakunin Federation and the UPKI certificate issuance services and ADROM JP. So if you're interested in the above projects, please contact us or visit the following URL for Gakunin. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sakan. Very interesting what Japan's up to. Excellent. I have a question about your hosted IDP solution.
Yes.
Where are you planning to, or where are you hosting the IDPs? Is it in your own cloud or?
Yeah. So we are, this service is contracted as a cloud service, actually identity ID as a services. So we selected some IDaaS product provided by a Japanese company and a Japanese company. So currently we provide two implementation or the two cloud services. So so the participant in this second experiment can select implementation of IDaaS.
And what level of uptake have you had so far from how many IDPs have moved to your cloud IDP service?
Current IDP already joined Gakunin.
No, how many have moved to your hosted IDP solution?
Currently, so we have about 30 organization.
30 out of.
Yes, and also we application is now in progress. So in this some the number of participants will increase a little.
Sakan, for IDP hosting service, do you offer universities the VMs or on Docker?
Yeah, and actually, with a virtual machine or a container depends on the implementation of IDaaS. So, in my understanding, the IDP is a virtual machine provided as a virtual machine, not container.
Okay, as a virtual machine.
Yeah, not as a virtual machine, not a container.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terry, do you also offer VMs to your universities, or?
At the moment, we're using VMs in AWS, but we are planning to move to Kubernetes and containerizing everything.
Okay, just like Malaysia.
Yeah. So all of our federation tools like Federation Manager and other things like that are already containerized. It's just our IDP as a service is still to move to that space. We want to get to version 5 first before we start containerizing things.
Okay, great. So in Docker it's worked fine, or we have to provide some special processing power to the Docker or the VM, or?
I'm not sure yet. We still haven't got that far. So the Malaysians would be the ones to ask on that count.
Yes.
They're way ahead of us with regards to Kubernetes and setting up IDPs in that infrastructure.
Right.
We're also looking at changing how we feed our metadata to using MDQ, metadata query, to reduce the memory footprint of our shibboleth IDPs. And that's coming hopefully this year sometime.
Yeah, I have a question. My question is for Isaku. How does Gakunin handle the authentication process for international students? Did you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, but I cannot catch your question.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay. Let me repeat it. How does the Gakunin handle the authentication process for international students?
Also,
I'm asking about the authentication process for international students.
international students.
Yes. How does your system handle the authentication process for international students?
So, how our company handle international students
Authentication.
authentication.
Just to authorize international students.
International students.
Yes.
So when an international student joins one of your universities, is there a process to do some identity verification for that student?
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you for explanation.
maybe actually so and this basic idea is to authenticate authorization. Sorry.
That's your
actually,
identity assurance for international students.
maybe for international students and so enter some university or institution in Japan. So the university should handle the ID of the international students, and so for in order to handle the international students, the responsibility of the ID management is in charge of the university receives the international students. I think. Is this answer to your question?
So you're saying it's a problem for the universities to solve. It's not a Gakunin problem.
And actually, so currently we have no handling procedure or procedure of step of handling identity of international students directly. Actually, and we will handle the ID by university or institution.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the same happens in Australia, where the university is responsible for doing that verification, and students will have a visa to come to Australia, and that will be part of it. They'll have their passport and other documentation that they'll need to present to the university when they're joining the university, and that will make up their identity verification. Once that's occurred, the university will issue them credentials in the usual way, I expect.
Oh, yeah, actually, so for if you want to...
I think he's asking that if he is a visitor, then he will connect to his local IDP that is based in his own country. But if he has joined or joined the new university, the foreign university, then the new ID will be created by the university, and they will use the local IDP for authentication. Right?
Yep.
Sorry, and do you mean local IDP?
Yeah, if he has joined your university, some Japanese university, then he will use your IDP to connect. But if he is visiting for just few days, then he will connect to his local IDP that is based in his own country.
Okay, thank you. Maybe.
Yep. So for EduGain, that's how that would work.
Yes,
Not
yes.
EduGain, sorry, EduRoam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think so. So to promote international cooperation or international research, so the IDP, actually university or institution, should consider that joining the EduGain, I think.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Is there any
Thank
more
you
questions?
for your question and comments. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to stop sharing screen? Yep, thank you. And is there anyone else want to present before I do the Australian Access Federation update? Take that as a no, so I shall share my screen. So can everyone see that screen? Okay, so Australian Access Federation, our update. So we're going to just have a quick look at what we're doing in our support section, what our development team and security team are doing. We're the ORCID consortium lead, so we've got some interesting stuff happening there. And we have a new section for trust and identity for research. And then once we've got that, where to from here? So first off, for support, and that's the team that I head up, we're currently rolling out the new entity categories that I spoke about yesterday, and also REFED's multi-factor authentication signaling for IDPs that proxy through to Azure, and we're also now doing those that proxy through to other enterprise IDPs that have indicated that they have enabled multi-factor authentication for all of their students. So that's occurring, and I hope that will finish by the end of the year. We're also starting to roll out the REFED's assurance framework. We're doing it so that universities can populate the missing bits, which is around the level of assurance that has occurred. And we're putting up the framework that they can use in a technical sense. They just have to provide the attributes to fill out the missing bits. We're also updating our tools, our validation tools, to support the new entity categories and to support verifying that multi-factor authentication has occurred. I've also been out with my team and others from the Federation, from the AF, doing some roadshows, visiting various universities and research activities across Australia, and keeping in touch with them, reminding them that the AF is a thing, and informing them about what the AF is doing and where we're going. We've done about 40 visits so far across Australia, and our next visit is to the other end of Australia, to Perth, where we will spend a week over there talking to the state government, all of the universities and the peak research bodies in Western Australia. We're also upgrading to Shibboleth version 5 for our complete fleet. We hope to have 70% of that done by the 1st of September. We're actually going to push that back a little bit, but that's because we have over 70% of our IDPs in our hosted IDP solution called Rapid IDP, which is the next dot point there. So our hosted IDP solution, it simplifies upgrades and allows us to deploy these new entity categories, add new attributes, and be more proactive with the management of our Federation IDPs, taking that workload off our universities so they can concentrate on other more pressing activities that they have. For our development and security team, this year we've done a complete disaster recovery exercise and identified some holes in some of our processes which have been fixed and re-engineered to some point, and we've identified our target levels of recovery. We now are able to quite confidently say we have a recovery time objective of 8 hours and a recovery point objective of 4 hours. After that, after doing some fairly heavy lifting around the disaster recovery, basically took our whole development team offline to work through all that to make sure our services are as solid as they possibly can be. We've now reviewed our offsite backup procedures following an incident with one of our industry superannuation funds. That superannuation fund had all of its infrastructure turned off by Google, and destroyed by Google, and then they took about 2 or 3 weeks to actually recover all of that with Google's support. That was a bit of a disaster, and a lot of people were very concerned that their superannuation had disappeared. It's all resolved now, but we've looked at that incident and improved our own offsite backup activities. And we're also reviewing our AWS architecture and to ensure that it's well architected. As I mentioned earlier, most of our tools are now run as containers within Kubernetes, and over the next 12 months, I expect our Rapid IDP service will also move to be containerized within a Kubernetes cluster. That then gives us the ability to fairly easily move from one vendor to another without much effort. At the moment, our EC2 instances are very heavily reliant on the AWS architecture. So if we chose to move, it would be a big effort. Once we have it all in containers, the expectation is that we should be able to move those containers anywhere. It supports Kubernetes. Development. So we've also done some penetration testing for some of the new services that we're starting to introduce. We're looking at working with CI login. They now have an instance available in our Sydney AWS node. And we've done some pen testing on that and provided some feedback to CI login. CI login is a tool that we're going to be promoting to our subscribers for doing authorization, to do bridging of various users' identities, joining of identities, and building clusters of activity around a CI login instance, which I'll talk about shortly. It also uses other bits and pieces, a thing called co-manage, and it has its we've also provided feedback to the developers based on this pen testing, and they've been improving that software offering as we've been working through with them. For the second half of this year, we're looking at doing some SOC integrations. This is more for internal, for what's happening within the AAF. We're looking at end user devices. My laptop and our other team's laptops are being integrated into a more secure setup for all staff. We're also looking at a SAML proxy for services that can only deal with a single IDP, so it's SAML to SAML proxy. And possibly this year we'll have a service catalog of our stuff, which is much more thorough than our current service catalog. And we're also gradually aligning with the ISO 27001 standard for security and operations within the AAF. And this is just to ensure that our own security is up to scratch. ORCID, we run the ORCID consortium. So we issue the front-facing piece of ORCID in Australia. As part of that, we sit on the national PIDS, Persistent Identifiers Strategy and Roadmap Group, and contribute heavily to that. We have all of our Australian universities or Australian ORCID members have an integration into ORCID so that they can publish information about their researchers onto their research ORCID information. And that has been very valuable to be able to collect what's actually happening with regards to research across Australia. It makes reporting on research activities much more simple and much more thorough and accurate. And we've also got the National Imaging Facility. They're using PIDS to link usage of instruments and facilities with research outputs. There's a lot of activities on putting identifiers on not just people, but activities, on instruments, on organizations, so that we can get a better understanding of the outcomes of research and better reporting that the government's expecting, and making that reporting easier for research institutions to actually do. We're also doing a lot of work with trust and identity for research. This year, I think we are now officially part of the Australian Government's National Collaborative Research Infrastructure Strategy, a thing we call NCRIS, and are recognised as a national capability. So we are now entitled to get direct funding from the Australian Government to do work on trust and identity for research in Australia. Some of our major activities, we're working with various research activities. There's an incubator project to improve the trust and identity for them. The Nectar Cloud is one of those. There's there's about 6 incubators where we're working with them to work out how best to apply federated access, high levels of assurance, group management, all sorts of identity stuff with those guys to ensure that they are getting the best out of the Federation that they possibly can. We've done a whole lot on policy frameworks for trust and identity, and that's been recognised globally. And we also are developing a cyber security action plan for the whole of Australia, whole of the research sector in Australia. So our trust and identity for research, policy stuff, we've got localised AARC policy development kit. That's Australian, I'm not sure what the actual second A stands for, but research stuff. And we've got recommended restructuring of the document set. So we've got this document set, it's got a privacy policy on the processing of personalised information, membership management policy, acceptable use agreements, service operation security agreements, and a risk assessment that sort of lives across all of that. And we're also getting feedback from the AARC, which is just a body of all of the Australian Research Council. We are working on a number of projects with some of these groups, a group called Guardians, the Genomics Uplift for Australia through research data infrastructure at national scale. We've identified some success criteria, so develop identity and access management systems connected to other sub-projects, single sign-on with institutional credentials. We've already got that mostly in place, it's just bringing in the services. Authenticating users not affiliated with the AAF, including international researchers. So this is how do we bring in government researchers, commercial researchers, and even citizen science researchers into our community. And support standard authorization mechanisms. So that's where CI login comes into play. We're also working with another project called Cadre, and that's about discovery and apply for social science data sets. We're also working with our 2 peak research computer infrastructure groups. One's the Pawsey Supercomputer Centre, which is in Western Australia, and we're exploring how AF authentication for command line tools will help them. So potentially doing federated authentication for SSH, which is a bit of an ask, but we're looking at various options and seeing if we can make that work at a federated scale. We're also working with our National Imaging Facility, NIF, using persistent identifiers to connect instrument usage with research outputs and outcomes. So again, that's our PIDS working groups that's involved in that one. Our challenges, AF's great at what we do, but what we do about the people who aren't in the Australian, who aren't AF subscribers. From our communities, we've got feedback saying that between 30 to 60% coverage is what we have with their research communities. So we're missing a lot of government researchers, we're missing a lot of commercial researchers, and we have zero touch on social scientists. So our problem is to try and reach 100% of these research communities. That's a big challenge for us. Pretty much anybody potentially in Australia could be considered a researcher. So that's where the AAF is. We've grown in size fairly significantly since we last met. We're now about 30 people, and we expect to grow again now that we have this government funding to do stuff with research folk in Australia. So any questions? Okay, so is there anyone else who wants to do any Federation updates or reports, or have any questions about federated identity that we can take while we've got the time in this meeting?
Yes, Terry, I have a question about midpoint. So it's midpoint on we create users on midpoint, or we manage your LDAP or Active Directories from midpoint. Do you have any idea about it?
I've had a bit of a play with midpoint, and my understanding is that you connect it to your student system or your HR system, which will feed basic information into midpoint. Midpoint will then create an identity within itself, and then it can then push that identity information out to Active Directory or Azure or Google or wherever you want that identity to go. It can go to multiple endpoints, and you can also get stuff back from Azure to, say.
So basically, LDAP works with. Oh, sorry. The midpoint works with the LDAP servers, whatever it's LDAP server or Active Directory or any other user database. So midpoint is used for the user management and to apply policies on the servers.
Yeah, it's a governance tool, really.
Governance tool.
Yeah,
Okay.
What are your policies? Where do accounts need to exist? What time frame do they exist within? What are the rules for adding and removing accounts automatically?
Okay.
It's something I've wanted to experiment with much more, but I've never had the time to actually sit down properly and do it. But hopefully I will do one day. I've been also contemplating spending some time on one of the in-common midpoint training sessions. The problem there is that I have to be up at like midnight to start.
Yes. Yeah. Time zone is an issue.
And I'm getting too old for that sort of stuff.
And do you have
But
updated?
yeah, one day I'll spend some time actually going into it in more detail. I've got some personal things I'd like to use it for.
Okay. And do you have updated your Shibboleth server to version 5?
We're very close to getting all of our IDPs to version 5. I
So-
expect it'll happen within the next month or two.
And you will update your the installer on the GitHub as well for the version 5.
It's almost finished as well, yeah.
The old one. That.
Yep,
that
it's Shibboleth's V5 now.
Okay.
I'll put that in the link when into Slack for you, so you can have a look at that.
Actually, I have created a fork of that your installer and also added a Let's Encrypt part in it. So it's working fine. So I've just.
Yep. So it's a complete new installer. It's version 5. So I left version 4 alone, and basically used version 4 as a starting point, and effectively forked a version 5.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same. There's just some
They have added some
subtle
new.
differences about how jetties run and stuff.
Okay. And do you know about their consortium fees, membership fees? What type of advantages we get if we become the member of their consortium?
Yeah, we joined this year, I think it was, or last year, the consortium.
Yes.
It gets you on their developers list, so you can join into their development community. You can ask more direct questions of the developers, and you can help set directions for where they're going.
So do they provide any technical help? For example, if we become the member and after the deployment that we face some issues in the Shibboleth, so we can contact them and they can provide our support service to us, or it's just
Not really, no. They don't go too much more into support. They have their online, their email channels,
yes.
which Scott will answer, but he won't actually jump on your server and help you fix it.
So the consortium membership is for basically if you want to implement something or provide some software updates, or if you want to
If you
be a
want a new
part of
feature or
their in
something,
policy making something.
yeah. So if you want a new feature or some activity, you get to be first in the queue or up there in the queue. But they're not trying to do support for it. That's really up to you and our community. So I've actually helped Raj a few times. He's sort of pinged me on Slack and asked some questions, and I've worked with him to solve some of his problems. And also Farhan has jumped in as well. So it's really about the community supporting each other.
Yes. So for Shibboleth, only we have to communicate with the community, the education community, if there is some issue.
That's one way, or you can actually ask a question of the shibboleth list. They'll try and answer it, but and I also follow that list, so I'm up to date on what's actually happening, or if there's any issues, or if there's something. There's a lot of stuff going on there,
Yeah,
and that's how I
I think
learn
it's
how
a
to
very
drive
stable
these
tool.
things.
Once it is properly configured, then there are not much issues. If once it is,
That's correct.
yes, correct.
Yeah.
Only the
Most of the
issues,
issues come from the service providers.
yes, and only the issue comes when there is any sort of update, then we can expect any issue. Otherwise, it keeps working fine.
We've had no problems with it.
Yes.
It's a very solid piece of software.
And it can be customized for other services as well. For example, my concern is that we are also working on a cloud project, and on that cloud project we will offer multiple services. For example, if we offer some LMS or Moodle in future, we can integrate it with our federation.
Yep. There's a lot of universities who have Moodle, Blackboard, all those sort of LMSs connected to their IDPs.
Yes. And do you know about the Ping Federate tool? It's a Ping Federate tool. It's very much similar to our Jagger. If you have seen its GUI, they add.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
seen Ping Federate. We've got two universities that use Ping Federate, and I've had a play with it many years ago. It's okay. It doesn't understand Federation metadata or Federation aggregates.
Yes, actually, right now no commercial tools support the adding of edugain metadata or integrating it. Even the Microsoft ADFS don't support it. We have to customize it.
The problem is that all of these commercial tools think they're the center of the universe, and that there's only one IDP, and that's them.
Yes.
Whereas in our model, we have many IDPs.
So we have to go for the hybrid approach. We have to install Shibboleth and Jagger for the education federations, and we also have to buy some commercial tool to run our HEC cloud applications.
Well, no, the depends on what the cloud applications are. You can just plug them into Jagger or connect them to Shibboleth. They'll just work just the same.
Yeah. Right.
It's
right.
For us, what we've done is we've got Shibboleth and we've got the cloud IDPs, and we've got them connected together.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking from it, from the user experience, the user will always be logging into Azure, but they may be going through the Shibboleth IDP if they're going to a federated service.
Right. So we have to, if we want to use Azure, then we still have to install the Shibboleth, but in a proxy mode or something.
Yeah, and that's fairly easy to do.
Okay.
The other option, which is not as pretty, is to do what I think the South Africans and the Danish and a few others have a hub and spoke federation,
Yes. Yes.
and that's much more complex to deal with. But it also has some advantages, and you can plug pretty much anything into it. Then the problem is you've got to be 100% certain that your central hub is always up and running, because you've got all your traffic going in and out of that hub.
So Azure will be our central hub, or the Jagger will be our central hub?
No, it's usually something based on simple SAML PHP
Okay.
or some other sort of proxy that sort of sits in the middle and takes all the incoming attributes and authentication requests and then farms them out. So you need to have fairly highly available, highly dynamic sort of piece of software that does that. And yeah, you'd want to have a fairly good team to do that sort of thing. Whereas the mesh model that we run, much more simple to set up and configure, but it does have some downsides in that you're limited to what you can plug into it. And plugging in EduGain into a hub and spoke federation gets a bit messy as well, because it's difficult to, you've got to actually expose all of your IDPs to EduGain anyway, so there's extra effort in doing that.
Right.
So you're effectively setting up synthetic entities at the proxy in the middle. So it's a bit messy. And that's why we've just been promoting the hub and spoke model. And it's also got its own messes and stuff, but it's much simpler to get your head around. And if one piece goes down, that doesn't take out the rest of the whole of your federation.
And what happens if your centralized Jagger gets down? So we have time to, the federation keeps working, or?
Yep. So the centralized Jagger, all it's doing is generating your metadata aggregate
Yes.
and publishing that. So if it goes down for a day, that doesn't matter, because all of your IDPs and all of your service providers will have a copy of the aggregate, and it'll have generally a 7-day life on it. So your federation will continue working for at least 7 days without a Jagger.
And how you manage your backups? Do you take daily backups of your all infrastructure, or weekly backups?
I'm not sure. That's not my area anymore, but I don't know that they do complete backups. They back up the database of everything, and I think they back up all of their configuration, because it's all Kubernetes based, so they just back up all that config, because from that config they can completely rebuild the system.
And your whole infrastructure is hosted on Amazon right now? AWS?
Yeah, AWS.
Yes. Okay.
It's not a cheap hobby,
Yes.
but it's for us it's cheaper than us buying our own machines and putting them in a machine room, because we don't want to have the management, all that infrastructure. So we pay for that, pay Amazon to do that for us effectively.
Right.
So we never have to worry about upgrading our machines every 3 years or 4 years or whatever that cycle time is. We don't have to worry about the machines dying on us, having to get them repaired, having to upgrade the operating systems, all that sort of stuff's generally handled by AWS. And sometimes they make mistakes, and sometimes things go down because AWS is not 100% solid. We've had a few minor outages, but they're only generally minor and nobody really notices them. And it also does take some skill to actually understand all the bits and pieces in AWS, because we're using their front-end load balancer, we're using their S3 storage stuff at the back end, we're using all sorts of bits and pieces in AWS, which is a bit of a concern, because there's a lot of knowledge that's now embedded in our developers' heads, that if we lose our developers, then we've got to rebuild that knowledge base. But they also have been doing a lot of effort to record and make all of their decisions very transparent, so everyone in the team knows exactly what's happening.
Yes. After the cloud, the things have changed a lot. I mean, from the programming point of view, like GitHub or other thing, Ansible and automation tools.
Yeah, we don't let anybody actually SSH onto any of our boxes anymore, unless it's absolutely necessary. I think lead developer was actually logged onto one of our IDP boxes because it was going up and down like a bit of a yo-yo, so he jumped on and stopped it before it could kill itself again, and it's got it more stable. They're still not sure what's happening with that one. I think it may be a insufficient memory, but yeah, very, very rarely we need to actually log onto a box, which also has its downsides, because when you want to know what's happening, you've got to get the logs, the IDP logs off those boxes. So we've got to get them into something we can view those logs, and that's not 100% perfect yet for our IDPs.
So for how you do the reporting then? I mean, do you collect the logs from the servers and then generate some sort of reports for each IDP that this they are using these services these days?
We wish.
Right now you
We
don't
don't
do
do
any
that yet.
reporting?
Sorry?
Right now you don't do any reporting for the IDPs?
We do the log collection, and we do some very rough reporting, but there's nothing no formal regular reports. We can just push a button and say what was the usage of this IDP last month. I wish that was available. And one of the graphs that I saw of Sakan's was how many authentications happened, how many were student authentications, how many services they have in their federation, what type of services. There was one page there. If I could do that with a push of a button, that would be fantastic.
And
Just to generate that report.
other federations are also not doing it. For example, we cannot select one user that to check the usage of one user that this how many service providers he has access in last 1 month.
Not yet. We're working towards that. The data is all there available to us. It's all in the audit logs, but at the moment we can't expose that as a graph or a report or a table or a CSV thing for a specific user. We can do, but it's not easy. We've got to actually pull all the logs together, put them into some sort of database ourselves, and then do an extraction that way. But it would be nice to have just a reporting tool saying, I want that user for this period of time.
Raja showed us some presentation in previous sessions that they have built some tool on it. But
Yep. If I want to get back onto Raj about what he's actually done, because he's done some really nice work in that space.
yes, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I don't.
Anyone
think,
else? Sorry?
No, I don't think there are other countries available for their updates.
No. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for attending today. There might be another session. I think we had 2 sessions in a row for this, just in case we had too many people turn up, but unfortunately not. So hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of your conference, and we'll get in contact with you in the next few weeks to dig deeper into your Azure questions.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll also catch up with the guys from Bangladesh who've got issues around Google.
Okay.
And I'll set up that access and introduce you to the Nectar crowd. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye.